I want to introduce somebody that I have been following online on Facebook a year now. Her last name properly, I almost butchered it there.
All good. It's Krystallee Lalsin. Yes.
Okay. She just wrote a book called Raw Confidence, and I am very interested. She's been talking about that book here for over a month now, and you're in my Facebook group. And so I wanted to expose people in my Facebook group too to the work that you do, because I do feel that many of the people that I work with have issues with confidence and issues with intimacy. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, your training, your credentials, and the type of people that you would like to serve in the work that you do, Krystallee?
Yeah. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to connect with your audience. And the work that I do has many layers to it. And the easiest way I can describe it is that we tap into your inner wisdom, the information that's stored within you, not only mentally, but somatically as well, because you can't change the mind if you don't change the body that follows it. So I work with clients who are doing that deep introspective work or really want to tap into getting to know themselves through a form of hypnotherapy. And there are many forms of hypnotherapy that are used, but mine is a very potent form, as I've been exposed to not only for myself, but the clients that I work with, where transformation happens within the sessions that we work in. So there are live transformations that occur, and we really get to the root cause of the problem. So a lot of people come to me with the symptoms of what they're feeling: anxiety, depression, low libido. Maybe they're feeling some chest pains or inability to feel emotions. And we really get down to the depths of what caused that and what hasn't been resolved, many times leading back to some sort of childhood wound. A lot of that does come up. So we do a lot of inner child healing as well. But we work with what comes up and what the client needs in our sessions.
Wonderful. And that is also the way that I work with people too, working with people with what is in front of them, what is coming up for them in the session, or just repeated things that keep coming up for them again and again. So one of the things that I did want to say, and I wanted to say this early on, and that is a lot of people that are in my world right now are Christians. And so it is really important for me to be able to convey, healing modalities to that population of people that maybe have never had exposure to, just things that are outside of conventional medical care. And honestly, that things that they might be fearful of. I'm going to say just right out front, I think a lot of Christians would pause when they hear hypnosis. They would be afraid that that involves some kind of mind control. And we have to be sensitive with people and their belief systems. But this is one that I feel, really wanting to tackle and shed light on, just because of maybe misconceptions, misinformation that have just been construed over time and resulted in built-in fear about esoteric or things that are considered esoteric. I've done hypnosis before. You obviously have to trust the person that's doing it. We always have to trust a person who's doing anything to us, right? Whether that person be someone at church or a teacher at school or a therapist, we always have to figure out how to establish trust and learn how to discern truth versus fiction, honestly. So what can you tell us to maybe just shed light on hypnosis directly towards people, who maybe have hesitations because of their faith?
Yeah, totally. And I think what's been presented in information of what it is inaccurate when you actually dive into it. So essentially, hypnosis is dealing with somebody's belief in and actually digging into the psyche of their depths of beliefs that they've had and things that have been installed within them, either adopted from, a parent or a guardian or some bigger entity that they adopted as children, and they have that belief system installed in them. And so really a lot of people are hypnotized all day long every day. They're not realizing that. So why not tap into the mind in the same way that you're operating on a daily basis using hypnosis? A lot of it is, yes, repetition. So of course, a lot of people know when you repeat things, you start getting better at it, you practice, and that just becomes a part of your mental faculty at some point. But there's another form of training your mind and working through your mind through the neural pathways. And this is just a natural, normal part of just being human, and how to actually work through that without struggle or willpower or force, but actually get to the core issues that prevent you from or continue to make you self-sabotage your relationships or your own self or goals that you've set out for 2026. There's many factors involved in why your belief systems are so strong, and that started from birth, from childhood, from when you came onto this world and installed within you, and then it grows. And sometimes, people don't challenge those beliefs. And I think religion too, they install a lot of beliefs as well. And I'm not religious myself, nor, have adopted a very strong religious aspect, but I am quite spiritual and believe that there is higher guidance. And if people could see it as them tapping into themselves with that higher guidance in a hypnosis session, they'll see that it's really, if it's God or however you attach the name to it, it's really that guiding your inner wisdom to find and seek the answers and then make the changes that you want to. So there is that aspect of it as well, which is a higher spiritual nature, but there also is that aspect of this is how we operate as humans. So why not use that to change or transform or heal?
Okay, so when somebody is doing some work with you, I want to know a little bit about what can they expect. So what does real confidence look like when someone is still healing?
So real confidence looks like knowing, a strong knowing, a trust within themselves, a feeling within them that's unshakable, that they can't deny anymore. I think a lot of people run away from themselves or hide the truth from themselves, even though they deep down know that it's there. So when we're working together, we kind of cut through the fluff, which a lot of that comes up, and we start really digging deep down into their core beliefs and maybe some traumas that have occurred, or some theories that they've adopted, and create some clarity around those, process some of those unprocessed emotions or traumas that occurred. Maybe they weren't old enough to deal with it properly or didn't know how to. And we really bring full circle peace to the problems that they've had and carried their whole life. And that then allows them to evolve and transform, feeling really relieved, relaxed in our sessions, stress-free, and feeling more comfortable in their own skin. And that's kind of the way I can describe is feeling comfortable in your own skin, just showing up and not being afraid to be seen.
Absolutely. That goes right into the next question that I wanted to ask you. So when you talk about raw confidence, what does it actually feel like in the body? How would somebody know when they have it?
Yeah. So raw confidence stands for real, authentic, wholesome. Wholesome being spelt as WHOLSUM. So the sum of life, sum of spirit, mind, and body, and making good choices for yourself. So feeling real is making real decisions for yourself, acting from a real place of being, not people pleasing, which is, making yourself a chameleon into to suit other people or make them like you. It's really acting from a place of true knowing of your own self and feeling like even if you said something, you're confident in saying it, and it may or may not agree with somebody, but you both can agree to disagree at some point, and having that confidence to share that. The the authenticity part is really knowing thyself and, having that clear knowing of how you like to operate in the world and what's good for you and how you show up for the people that you serve or your family, your relationships. All of that authenticity part is not following the crowd or the herd, but knowing what's true to you. And then the wholesome part is just making great lifestyle decisions that fit with your life and, using discernment to make those decisions, even though they may not follow the trend or what most people say, doing your due diligence to live a wholesome lifestyle so you can live a life that you love.
I really love that because, especially the part that you said about chameleon, because that's what people do to fit in, right? It's the people pleasing.
Yeah.
That is a survival response.
Right.
And, there are times when it is absolutely appropriate, right? Like if you're in another country, you want to observe how other people carry themselves. And so you want to, you don't want to fit in for any other reason than to respect like their customs and their culture, right? Because
exactly.
We're not here to just go around offending people. So it is important for us to look around and see what the common, I guess you could say, body language and tone is, and to try to fit in initially. But if we continue to operate like that on a daily basis, I mean, what's going to happen to us? We're going to lose our identity, right? We're not going to really know who we are because all we're doing is just pretending and acting like other people. We haven't really figured out our own identity.
Exactly.
And from that deeper place of like signature self.
Yeah. And essentially, I believe it's cultivating a self of self-respect, a sense of self-respect, but also, adopting and creating what this book is creating your own life's manual for how you want to be in the world. And like you said, yes, we do, adopt certain things from other cultures or countries or family members, but it's how we're using them to work with ourselves and with community.
Yes, I like that. Okay, so my next question. Let's see, because I work with lots of people. I mean, the majority of people that I work with are people that are coming in because they're dealing with some kind of chronic, irretractable pain. If I'm working with them virtually, they probably have been through, all the traditional things, which would be like chiropractic care, physical therapy, massage, maybe acupuncture, if they're a little cutting edge. They might tap into naturopathy, possibly. I mean, some of my pelvic health patients and clients, I'm definitely referring them to naturopaths on purpose because I know that those types of practitioners use functional medicine in a way that I know is going to help people overcome and get to the root cause. And so, but when it comes to these issues we're talking about with raw confidence and intimacy, many of those people that I just mentioned, they don't want to get into that stuff with their clients. And so it's something that gets hugely overlooked in their healing process, and we can't ignore it. Okay, even if you don't talk about it with those practitioners, even if you don't talk about it with your friends, well, let's just face it, like not talking about it doesn't make it go away. And so we do need to find somebody that we can trust, that we have confidence in, and be able to express these things to people. Because if we don't tell somebody, nobody knows that we're even going through much of this stuff, right? So tell me, how does chronic pain, especially back or pelvic pain, relating to the type of clients that I see, how does it quietly impact intimacy and desire?
Totally. That's a great question because I feel like there's a mental emotional aspect that is missing for treatment. And it's such a strong aspect because the mind is running the body. And so there is a connection. And I think that there's one place in the world where, yes, the physical therapy is definitely necessary in different forms, but the mental therapy is extremely necessary because a lot of people are holding stress in their body somewhere. I know I hold a lot of my stress on my shoulders and my neck. People hold stress in their hips, in their pelvic area. And then that causes a lack of flow. And so I think that if people start really listening to their bodies a lot more and questioning what they're experiencing in their bodies, then they'll start relating it to like day-to-day life things that they're doing that maybe is not good for them, or maybe they need to think about, how do I approach this differently, or how do I handle problems right now, and why do I do that, and how come I'm being that way, and how do I change this? I think a lot of people need to ask deeper questions about why the pain is there, and what chronic things have they been engaging in that has been causing the chronic pain. At the same time, they need to understand how their emotions during that chronic time has been deeply affecting the biochemicals within their body, and it's all interrelated. So if somebody's working with you, I certainly, believe that you have this niche of helping people understand that there's more to it than just the body, but then how do we get their mental, emotional place in a good place where they can alleviate this pain? And it also affects the intimacy, because nobody is going to want to be intimate when they're stressed out or not feeling good in their body, or having back pain or pelvic pain. They're going to avoid it at all costs. And some people are so shy about talking about intimacy that they won't even tell their partner they're experiencing this pain, which is causing them to not want to engage in having intimacy with them. So there's just all this like lack of communication, maybe in different forms, that I feel like if we start talking more about this and making it normal and making people feel comfortable, that saying, you can talk about this with your partner, with your therapist, with your physical therapist, with your doctor, and also seek other ways to change the way you're feeling. And I think people are in therapy for good reasons, but maybe not getting the right kind of therapy that is transformational. That's when they have to seek other options, other alternative methods out there. And also, start learning to feel confident in yourself, to talk to your practitioner, to talk to your partner about what's been going on, and find a solution, and not just live with the problem. Because we shouldn't be in pain all the time, and there's more to it.
Absolutely. We're not here to constantly struggle. We're here to enjoy life and all the amazing things that life has, to offer each person. Let's see. I want to pick through some of the things that you did just say. Let's see. So you absolutely do have to talk to someone, because if you do not tell somebody you're going through these things, you can't expect them to just read your mind. And I'm going to admit that people that have chronic irretractable pain, they're good at hiding. They're good at pretending. They're basically good at lying, honestly, because that's what they're doing. It's like they're putting on this like happy face, or pretending like things are okay when they're really struggling inside. And pain is multifactorial. It's not just physical. Okay, I can help somebody with physical pain so fast, right? It is not hard to help people get out of pain, but pain is multifactorial. There's so many layers to it, and one provider can't solve it all. Even if you're a mental health counselor, I mean, the chances that you're going to be somebody that gets down on the floor with people and rolls around and does like somatic exercises, and unless you were trained in that, because I think a lot of mental health therapists are actually getting trained in somatic movement work, which I think is really wonderful. But a lot of people haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
And so we do need more practitioners like yourself. We even need more practitioners like me, ones that are licensed and knowing how to discover some of these things about people and refer them to the appropriate resources, whether that be a mental health therapist, because there are times when even though I do work with mind body when it comes to physical therapy, there are times where I might say, I can't work with you unless you get under care of a licensed mental health therapist, because we need to build a team for people. I don't want to be the one and only person that does it all for anyone. That's too much responsibility. And so we do need to, we need to spread out some of the work that needs to be done. And so helping people build a team, that's one thing that I've been very big on for a long time, is building a team of providers that all help you work, towards the same desired results that you want to create, but it is too much for one person. So having somebody like you, I think, is important, so that people can get, figure out different ways to get into their body. Even a mental health therapist might not even have enough time in a session, to help people get into their bodies in that type of way, a way that they need to feel, and, how the emotions are connected with how the physical body moves and feels and functions, honestly. Because spinal care is super important in pelvic health. So if we're not addressing healthy spines and pelvic health, then we're missing a huge, like, one of the main pieces, okay, in pelvic health. So, but at the same time, I need my clients to understand that raw confidence is not like, you're not like flying through the air in some Superman suit. That's not confidence. I think a lot of times we think it's going to be like superheroes or something that we see in movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
But raw confidence might be like, you stick to your schedule. You schedule that talk with your spouse, or you schedule that appointment, and you know that when you go to the doctor, you're going to talk to them about your issues with intimacy.
Yeah.
Or if you're a pelvic health therapist, I think most pelvic health therapists that are out there, they are these very super gentle souls. And so the clients that come to us, they generally, like, they already feel a safety. They have a sense of safety somewhat before they even arrive. They might be really scared because they don't know what pelvic health therapy is. It sounds really weird.
Yeah.
It's not weird at all. It's actually very practical. It's probably much of what you teach to your clients too.
Yeah.
It's self-awareness, making good choices, analyzing your situation, breaking it down, and reworking it a different way so that it works for you. Okay, so the next question that I have for you is, why do so many people try to push through pain instead of listening to what their body is communicating? And this is a big one, because work harder, not smarter is a real belief system that we need to collapse. We need to collapse that belief system that is so hardwired in humanity. No. I said that wrong. Let me back up. We need to hardwire work smarter, not harder. But the real thing that we need to collapse and plug in work smarter, not harder, is that no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
People believe that you can't get anywhere without it being super painful.
It's true.
And so even in pain management, we do have to help people learn about, pain, like avoidance, pain avoidance. Like, even sometimes things that are really healthy for them that are going to get, pretty immediate or over time is going to get them significant amount of relief. There has to be some overcoming, like pain avoidance. And so how do we address people who come from that hardwired system, which is a huge amount of humanity, which is no pain, no gain?
I think it's gonna bubble up to the surface one day, some way, shape, or form. So it's either you're gonna ignore it or you're gonna deal with it and find some ways. I don't think you can avoid it at some point much longer. I know for even my own self, like, you go through the motions of pushing, and you realize you can't push anymore. You're gonna collapse or die, or something really bad's gonna happen. So I think the inner self-talk is really important, and that's something I teach my clients a lot with, is that inner self-talk, and not to listen to what's been installed within us, but really listen to ourselves. So if you're having lower pelvic pain, or your libido is not what it used to be, I think really tuning in to that and using it as signals, versus dismissing it. These are the signs that we're looking for, the red flags that everyone's looking for. These are red flags for us to pay attention to. But I think we've been trained out of that mind state, and not really taught to use our intuition, taking that out of our life at a very young age, and kind of making us go into this social system of maybe being somewhat robotic and fall into routines, and just, this is the answer, go to your doctor, they'll give you the answer. But that's taking away our own power, finding our own answers for ourselves. And we all of us have the answer. We just need someone to guide us through all the fluff, take away all the junk that really we don't believe, and get to the truth beneath it all. And that's always going to be the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And I think too that, taking away all the fluff is something hard for people to do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, they'll just go to the doctor, and if they didn't get what they want, they might just dismiss the doctor completely. And then they might also dismiss the fact that they still have a responsibility to figure things out for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Providers don't always have the best answers, but they're going to come to you with whatever they know, right? They might not know you very well, because if you only have a 15-minute appointment with a doctor, they don't really get to know you very well. And so then they do rely on ancillary services like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, mental health therapy, all of that. But even in the therapy systems within our mental health system, or within our healthcare system, each one of those types of therapies, they lack something because they're so much stuck in a container that they sometimes can't get out of, regarding the way they practice what they do. So they can't get to people at a deeper level the way they need to, because of the constraints, honestly, of the healthcare system.
Yep.
Okay, so next I want to talk to you about, just a sex life and what that does to a person's nervous system. So what happens to someone's sex life when their nervous system doesn't feel safe? I talk to people about this sort of thing all the time. But for somebody like you, in the work that you do, how do you address that kind of issue? Mm-hmm. Safety for a person and what that does to their nervous system when it comes to a sexual relationship with their partner. What do they do? What happens to someone's sex life when their nervous system does not feel safe?
It's non-existent. Their sex life is either non-existent, it's performative, it's just very surface level, it's done out of fear, it's done from obligation, and it's not in a sense where it's a deeper connection between the two people. The nervous system got affected by, could be day-to-day stress that affects that, could be some sort of trauma that happened in childhood. Maybe unfortunately someone went through a sexual assault, or I even had a client who believed and was told by his family, who was heavily religious, that sex was a sin, and he believed that from childhood to growing up. So he didn't, give himself permission to enjoy sex. And so these are the things that really affected him, which then caused him to have erectile dysfunction. But he wouldn't have known that going through the traditional methods. He would have taken the medication. He would have, lived that way and let him and his wife's marriage suffer. But I proposed to him a concept of the mind-body connection, and how the brain and your thoughts literally can change how your body works. And we decided to work together, and he realized, he believed that sex was a sin. He didn't give himself permission. And it really deeply affected him and his nervous system, because he's in the freeze mode. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold myself back. So a lot of people hold themselves back because of their nervous system conditioning. There's a lady that I worked with who was really shy, didn't want to show her body, was scared to tell her partner what she liked and didn't like. And of course, that nervousness is stored in the body. It's not going to let you relax and enjoy or release or give in to the moment. It's going to keep you at bay, keep you feeling uncomfortable, and not be able to immerse yourself in that experience. So I think there has to be a lot more conversation around not only sex as the act, but like the nervous system holding the fears of you having sex and allowing yourself to enjoy it and not feel guilty. I was listening to this podcast where they said in Germany they have the lowest abortion rates, and teenagers don't have, you know, crazy sex all the time because they do sex education differently than the Western world, where we shame people for, you know, having sex and thinking about it. And it's just part of our normal body makeup. So why are we discounting it as something, you know, that's a sin or not appropriate? I mean, of course, there's age appropriation for this kind of conversation for a young person, but at the same time, why are we not doing it as a part of our normal body system of function? Because that's what it is. And it creates, you know, really good, healthy chemicals for our body and the dopamine that we need to continue to be happy and live a life that we love, because it is a part of living a life that we love. Great, connecting, intimate sex.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. The sex education that was offered in my son's school, he's in high school right now. And I think that was last year, I believe. So it was his freshman year. And the way they handled it, I liked the way they handled it. But I also piped in to, you know, to give my 2 cents on how I felt, because what they did was, we have an app for the school. And so on that app, teachers can send out messages. So the teacher that was teaching the sex education sent out messages to all the parents and said, you know, you have the choice to opt in or out for your child to have this education. And so I would get all the messages that would come in, and every single time, you know, the questions would come up about, you know, whether or not you wanted to delete this class or not for your child. I would always pipe in and, you know, say, you know, I think that our teens need to know about sex education. They need to know how their bodies work. I would always say something very positive and promotional about it, so that people would understand that, you know, when you go out in the world and you're super confused and you don't know anything about yourself and your body parts, and you don't understand this sexuality that's emerging in you, you can't deny it. It's there in your face. We all have gone through that. And if you can't make sense of it, it is very confusing. And when you don't know things, you're more likely, honestly, to go out there and explore dangerously than if you were to have background knowledge about safety, regarding sexual relationships with other people. And then the religious part, I also want to comment on that, because I do think it's a big one. I think that there could be way more work done, and I'm sure there's probably some really great authors out there that are Christian biased who talk about these things. But as far as, like, you know, parenting is concerned, it is our job as parents to make sure that our children have a healthy sex base of knowledge, you know, to go into relationships, you know, as teens, as young adults, you know, eventually in marriage partnerships, if that's what they want to choose. Because I do think that some of the stigma, the sexual stigma that is placed on Christians, has been so heavy in their childhood, you know, and it's been so fear-based that even if you are in a communion with your spouse in a marriage made by God, you can have a ton of sexual baggage that causes you to be sexually incompetent in a marriage because of the trauma that was forced on you because of the stigmas that were placed in early education about sexual health. And so Christians don't go into marriages always having that healthy basis, especially if you're somebody that is choosing to abstain from sexual relationships before you get married, and you've never had any experience with anybody else besides your marriage partner. You can start off your relationship with this wonderful person, damaging it severely because you don't have a basis in knowing how to relate to a person at that level. So I think there is a lot of married couples that are Christians that are going through sexual trauma because of that, and those people need help. All right, so let's go on to our next question. How is Raw Confidence Journal? Because your book, you created this book, and it is a journal. How is the Raw Confidence Journal different from traditional self-help or therapy tools? Because everybody's got a workbook these days.
Yes.
And
And I've
why
done,
is your workbook better than anybody else's?
well, let me tell you how my workbook is better. So I get you in. So first and foremost, I lay out the framework of why this is important. And every single day has a question that prompts you to answer it. But I get you into a hypnotic state to answer it. So every day you listen to a hypnosis recording, 5-minute recording, gets you into a receptive state to shut off the conscious and bring on the unconscious mind and all the information that's within there to answer the question. And the question is derived from a quote that I chose from somebody that the quote really sat well with me. And so then after that, you answer that for your own self, you gain deeper insight and wisdom. It's not surface level information. It's maybe the information you never really gave yourself permission to say or think, or you just avoided it. And it's really getting to the core information of what's true to you and listening to your own self. And then, yes, there is gratitude, because gratitude, I agree, after practicing it for now 4 years, is a great feeling to have, and maybe something that we take for granted in the modern world. But yes, there is a gratitude practice and setting an intention for how you want to be in the day. Because what this book is doing is rewiring your reticular activating system of how you see the world and how you show up in the world every single day, and holding you accountable. So that's why I think mine is different. It is the only hypnotherapy journal on the market, but it's also to keep you accountable and make you extremely reflective and learning that tool for yourself as a self-awareness practice.
Awesome. I love that. Yes, we need daily practices to build strong neural pathways. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the next question is, how does emotional honesty impact physical healing, especially in intimate relationships?
Emotional honesty is what it's all about. And if we're not honest with our emotions, you can't be happy and sad at the same time. You can't be excited for sex but hate sex at the same time. It just doesn't work. It cancels each other out. You either are one or the other. And so when you're not emotionally honest with yourself, you are denying yourself of living a life that you would love. I just keep going back to that because I think a lot of people are just living life and not realizing they can do more about their life to take more control and autonomy over themselves. So when we work through that emotional honesty in our sessions, eventually it comes to the surface. You know, we really can't avoid it, because when you do, there's just nowhere else to go in the session except for there. So when they finally meet themselves there, that's when release happens. That's when they start feeling at peace with themselves. That's when they have the aha moment that changes their life. And then that's when they go deeper inward with themselves and they just feel completely changed, and they can never go back to how they were. They just know. It's like the water that went down the drain. You'll never get that water back. That's how they feel. They just never will feel that way again. And that then goes into their relationships immediately. They see themselves differently when they look in the mirror. They look at their partner differently. They look at their body differently. And they have this renewed sense about themselves where they're not holding that problem. That problem is just not important anymore. They can actually move forward. And that just happens in a couple of sessions with clients that I work with. We don't need years of therapy. It happens in the first session where they can start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. There is change happening. And the more they allow themselves to engage in the process and immerse themselves in the process, the greater the transformation they'll receive. So yeah, you can't avoid the emotional honesty. It'll certainly come out in the wash.
Yes, absolutely. I love the emotional honesty part because I absolutely see how often people don't ever get to the simple things that I give them because they don't have that emotional honesty. And it's not just honesty with other people, it's hugely, they're lying to themselves quite a lot
Yeah,
to hold space for these problems. Why are we doing that? Why are we holding space for our problems? We need to hold space for our healing.
exactly. Oh, I love that.
Yes, I know. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a quote out of that. Got to stop holding space for our problems. Okay, so the last question is, if someone is struggling with pain, disconnection, or self-doubt, what is the first thing you want them to know?
Mm. I want them to know that they can change, that there's help out there, and that they need to seek greater help than what they're currently aware of that's available to them. And when they do see that or hear that or are becoming more aware of different alternative help that's out there, to act upon it, to not be afraid of it, to embrace it as part of alternative methods that are now becoming more mainstream, because people are seeing that there is, like I said before, light at the end of the tunnel through these methods. And so I just want them to know that there is possibility. That's why we continue to show up here, to share that possibility with people. And all they have to do is give themselves the chance to experience it.
Great. I think that's wonderful. I really love the idea of your book. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to have to get a copy of it.
Yes, I'd love you to.
Workbook, because I know that it sounds absolutely appropriate for the people that I work with on their healing journey. One thing I wanted to say is, you said, we reprogram our reticular activating system.
Yeah.
And so one of the works that I do is called Recode, and it is neuro repatterning, some of the same aspects of what you're doing as well. We want to build new healthy neural pathways and not give the old ones the attention that we did before, right? We don't want to keep holding space for them, because we want to now focus all of our attention on where we do want to hold space. And when we do that in a recoding process, it's a 5-step process. That is also what we're doing too. We are rewriting the script for our reticular activating system. Our unconscious is always going to hold us where it wants us to stay based on fear. Okay, so we have to become stronger than the fear-based system that we autonomically operate on every single day, because 80 to 90%, probably more like 90% of our daily actions are on autopilot. So that means that we are acting in a hypnotic, dysfunctional state just doing that. We have to break the cycle. We have to put a stick in the wheel, and we have to reroute our system to build new pathways on purpose. It's so important for us to do that. Otherwise, we are just going to be humans repeating the same nonsense over and over again. Okay, one thing I do want to say is, because I am working with a lot of Christians right now, it's really important for me to help people understand how important it is to seek out other providers. I know that some Christians feel like it's not okay to go see providers that are not Christian based, okay? And I myself know that there's a lot of really amazing people doing healing and transformational work, even doctors doing functional medicine. They're not Christian, but they're doing great work. And so how do you feel when I say something like that? Because I have heard that before, just like right from the podium, that it's not a good idea to, seek out mental health counselors that don't have a Christian foundation. I do understand why many would want to seek out somebody with a Christian foundation, because they would want to feel heard and understood and supported in their faith. How do you feel when I say something like that?
I think that people just need to listen to what feels good to them when they meet with somebody, to see if that person can help them or not. I think also, I respect whomever walks through the door, their beliefs, and it's not for me to judge them based on that. So I can totally understand that they may want somebody like that, so they do feel seen, understood, and heard. But I think if you develop a strong relationship or a good connection with the other person on the receiving end, on the provider end, I think that's the more important key element to look for. I've been working with I work with people of all walks of life. Some that I have no concept of or have never studied their religion, and yet we still get the greatest transformations because I work with what they provide me. I don't install or suggest or push them in a direction that I think is right. I work with what they give me. So yeah, I think just feeling out the connection between you and the provider is the most key important aspect in choosing somebody.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that so much because I do feel like that's where, most of us do come from, that place where we're not trying to change somebody else's belief system. We're
Yeah.
working with it. I'm
Yes.
always working with people's belief systems. I can assume that mine is completely different than theirs. And even
Exactly.
the work that I do, it is about forming a new belief system. Because if you want to transform yourself out of pain, you do have to look at yourself and be very compassionate with yourself that way. And I'm going to say that most of the people that do work that's maybe similar to me, I'm not really questioning or needing to know like their full background and their belief system to be able to connect with them. And so even if I'm working with somebody that is, I guess even an atheist, I would approach them the same way if I felt like maybe their belief system was part of the resistance in their healing process. I might point that out, but I'm not there to change someone's belief system or to install mine. I'm not trying to install my belief system in anyone. I'm working with their belief system, and the power of the work comes from whatever their source of power is for them.
Totally.
Is there anything else that you want to add that might help people understand your work better before we finish?
I think that, people just need to know that the mind is in charge and that there are many ways to deal with the mind. And through the way I do it, which is called conversational hypnosis, it is very conversational, and to, allow yourself to know yourself in a greater way. And that unlocks so many opportunities in life, not only for greater relationships with people, but the one that you have with yourself to live a very full life. And I believe the work that I do is, really full circle emotional healing that really helps the mind do what you want it to finally do without fighting it any longer. Because we know our thoughts create our feelings create our actions, and our actions create our events in our life. So why not start with how you're thinking in a renewed way, where I'm not asking you, well, what happened in childhood? I am literally working with, oh, you told me this happened. Well, how did that affect you? Where did this show up in your life later? We're investigating things. We're not just surface level skimming things. And I think the investigation process helps people understand deeper layers of themselves. And hey, I've had people that had another personality come into the session where another life came in. I've had people, talk to a past loved one in our sessions. I've had people see themselves when they were born. We have so many incredible faculties of ourselves that we just haven't tapped into yet. And I think every therapy has its place, and it's up to us to explore different things that are available to us to tap into different levels of ourselves.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that too. I want to add something just because I grew up Christian, and so I understand, the Christian mindset, and including the skeptical Christian mindset. It's not mine, but from being around people, I know that it exists. And some of the things that you just said, some Christians might be like scared or hesitant, like, what is she talking about? But I think that a lot of times it comes down to, education and knowing and understanding what that actually means. Because when you say all the things that you just said, I agree with you 100% because I actually have those types of experiences with clients that I work with too, whether it be in person or virtual. Okay, those things happen. Okay, and it's not because I'm conjuring it or calling it in. What is happening is we have cellular memory that goes back into our bloodline. So some of these things are coming up for us, and some of them are not even ours. They're ancestral. And so one of the things that I do work on with people is healing family bloodline, generational trauma. Okay. And so if you're a Christian, you'd be calling it generational sin. So I know that Christians can understand these concepts when we use the right words. Okay. Because we all need this healing. And information comes from different places because all the information that is available to us is not just solely in our own little sphere. We have access to super conscious information, which is just a field of information. That's all. It's a field of information that we all have access to. It's information out there in the universe, just like information on the internet that can come to us in a session. And so we can come up with, these memories that aren't presently in us. They can come up. There are thought forms out there in the field that do come to us that, many Christians would not like the word channeled. Okay. They don't like that word. Oh, we channel it, channel that. Where are you getting that information? Where is it coming from? It's just information that's out there in the field. And sometimes when we have these experiences, it pulls it into our current experience. And then people need to have safety to be able to talk about those things. And in a safe container that is holding that space for healing for them. And I didn't want to end this interview without saying that, because I understand Christians' skepticism like nobody's business. And I see how that kind of skepticism, without, they don't have the discernment because those words are not in their vocabulary. And right. So because those words are not in their vocabulary, they're automatically going to dismiss those concepts, or they're going to dismiss you until they have their own experiences, right? Right. Until those things happen to them. And then they're like, oh my goodness, what just happened to me? And you have a ton of knowledge to be able to explain that to them. I do as well. Despite, just my Christian background. Okay. So I do want Christians to get more sharp on discernment as a gift, because I see that lack of it and pursuing it is one of the stumbling blocks that Christians have in their healing experience. And one of my goals right now, just because I have so many, so much Christian influence in my own field right now, that I want to know how to get to those people without offending them. A lot of times that's where the healing is going to stop for them, is when you say one word that's not in their vocabulary and then they fly off the handle with it because they don't really understand, but they didn't have raw confidence to say that they felt uncomfortable, to ask, what did you mean? And then for you to have the opportunity to give education in terms that they can understand, so they don't miss their healing opportunity. So I'm wanting to do that with my own practice, where, it can be inclusive. And so that, I also use the right words and, the right NLP to help these people be able to get the healing that they deserve, that honestly they've been missing out on for so long. So,
yeah, amazing.
A bridge.
Thank you.
I would love to do some more work with you in the future.
Likewise, I appreciate you expanding my work to your amazing group and community, and also learning more about what you do, because I think it's really important that people really get to the root cause and the source of where healing can happen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Krystallee.
Thank you.
I look forward to connecting with you again in the future, and I'll do that soon.
Me too. Okay. Awesome.
All right. Can you send me a link about getting a copy of your book?
For sure. I'll send that over. You're in the US, right?
Yeah, I'm in the US. Where are you?
Cool. I'm just outside of Toronto, actually.
Okay. All right. You're Canadian. Okay. Yeah. All right. Nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Send me
we
a
just
link that
jumped
I
right
can.
into everything.
All right. Talk to you
All right,
later.
cool. All right, see ya.
Bye.
Thanks.